Hi, welcome to Race House with me, Jolie.
And me, Darren Reeves.
It was the Spanish Grand Prix. We love the Spanish Grand Prix. We've both been there. It's a really cool place in Barcelona for now. It was great to see. The weather held out. It was a great race, mainly to see a couple of the teams really having that resurgence, which we'll talk about. And again, another win for Max Verstappen, who again is supremely dominant in this season. Again, so Darren, you saw the race. What was your feeling about it? How did you feel?
Well, I sat and watched the race, and with Lando on pole, I was really excited. And I genuinely spent the whole race thinking Lando is going to win this race. He's going to win it. And what we've seen since Miami and in Canada, he's got the fastest car. So even though what happened at the beginning, I thought, do you know what, he's got this. He's going to get the pit strategy. He's going to look after his tyres. And we didn't quite see that. And so I came away from it thinking, do you know what, we are seeing some amazing driving from Max Verstappen right now, who for the first time in 3.5 years, has not got the fastest car anymore. And I think Max drove supremely in the first stint. And I think that had Lando not been overtaken by George Russell, which I think was one of the best starts of the season, I think
Amazing.
Lando would have won. I think Russell prevented Lando from winning. So that's my little summation, really, of what I sat there and went, okay, Lando's got this. And I think that's where we're going for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I really think. I mean, we talked about this resurgence of McLaren, and they've super fast car. Oscar was having more problems. I think he qualified 10th and he finished P7, I think, from memory.
Yep.
You know, that was probably disappointing because they essentially got the same car, essentially. But yeah, I was, do you know, watching Lando, certainly in those last 8 laps, you kind of felt, come on, it felt how I was gunning for Lewis, you know, like, come on, you can do this, chasing down. And, you know, Lando got the gap down from about 9 seconds down to about 4.5. And I don't know, Max was just too fast. He was able to fend him off at the end. I think with a few more laps, that could have been exciting. But that Lando's exit from his last pit stop to come out in front of the Mercedes, that really helped because he didn't have to battle, and he got on the podium. And followed by Mercedes. I mean, we got Lewis Hamilton there. The Mercedes team, again, another resurgence, which is strange to say because these guys have won so many championships. But they are really coming back. George looked great, and Lewis, amazing. Great battles with Carlos Sainz there. And I want to call Sainz Supergrass Sainz because whenever anything happens, he's straight on the blower and he's playing in and dobbing everybody in, which is an element of the sport we see now a lot more. But Lewis held his own and he got a well-deserved podium. His first podium of the year.
Yeah, who'd have believed it? Lewis seemed over the moon with the result, but he's excited now that he's got a car that can actually compete. And he's not had that really since 2021, which we won't talk about. But it hit him and Russell, these upgrades that obviously we saw Russell have the upgrade in Monaco and then Lewis have the upgrade in Canada. They have leaped above Ferrari now. And I think these niggles from Sainz are because he's seeing his car stand still and he's watching the other cars now leap ahead. We thought that Hamilton's move to Ferrari was a genius move at the start of the season. Are we now seeing Red Bull and Ferrari stay still and watching McLaren and Mercedes, the development race, even Alpine, are they developing much faster? So, I think there's a niggle there from Sainz because his car isn't staying at the development rate that the others are.
Yeah, no, that's true. And we've now seen Lando actually hop up to second in the driver's standings on 150 points. So he's now the number 2. We've still got a lot of races. We're about halfway through the calendar. We've still got a lot to go. Let's get back to the race, though. before the race as well. I don't know if you saw, but there was a big fire at the McLaren motorhome, and apparently it was an electrical fault. They're still investigating, I believe, but the kitchen was completely totaled in a fire. Lando's room as well was totaled, so he had to move to Zach Brown's office to get changed and play video games. Yeah, that's not what you want to happen just before you're going into a big race.
No, Joe, you and I, we've walked around the paddock a number of times, and in fact, in Spain, we've both been to Barcelona and spent time in Paddock Club working there, and you see how close all these motorhomes are together and how quickly they all go up. These little things, they don't happen very often, but it doesn't surprise me that electrical problems can happen. We've seen it in Monaco, where all these boat yachts have to plug into the harbour, and there's so many electricians and technicians and all these people. We're only human, so whatever the reason is, I think we're lucky that nobody got injured, and not any of the other motorhomes so close together got affected as well. So McLaren are lucky. They'll look into it. They're on top of it, and it didn't affect their race.
I've been in that motorhome as well, the McLaren one, and it is phenomenal because it's like walking into an office building. I mean, you'd never know this is a temporary thing that packs down like a transformer and then goes in the back of a truck or two trucks. It's phenomenal. There's kitchens in there, there's dining rooms, there's mock-up green rooms, I guess you call them, for the drivers. There's offices in there. There's also big terraces at the back, so you can look at the back. I went to it in. Oh no, I haven't been in there. I went to the permanent in Abu Dhabi. Okay, so that is a permanent building.
Yeah, they are.
But we've walked past the motorhomes. Yeah. That's why it felt so secure and stable. No wonder. And they had this huge terrace. It was made of stone. No. Well, there was talk about them getting rid of these motorhomes because of the carbon footprint. They said, well, look, can't you just have a marquee set up, from a local company at every race? And yes, there is that. But also, it's a matter of confidentiality. You've got team meetings in there, and these teams are talking about strategy. I mean, this is not just about winning a race. It's also has an effect on millions of pounds and thousands of jobs. So I think you do need to have a bit of that privacy as well as having just a catering tent. And it's more than just a catering tent. It's somewhere where sponsors can come as well and enjoy the hospitality. You have VIP guests. I saw Eric Clapton and Jules Holland, who came to the Bahrain McLaren what do you call it? Base, we call it, which is a permanent base there in Bahrain. So it serves a multitude of roles, but I do love the motorhomes, and for Europe especially, it's a much better way of doing it than the circuits building them. And Red Bull seem to always want to outcompete all of them. They have huge ones, and in Monaco we saw the huge Red Bull. Arena, you could call it. It looked like something and the swimming pool, the famous swimming pool, and it turns into a banging nightclub at night. So make sure you don't stay nearby if you want to get any sleep if you go to Monaco. Good. Well, the race, apart from that, what was happening lower down the field, Darren? Because we saw some drivers who were just really, really surprising. They were in the bottom 10, and perhaps they shouldn't have been there.
Well, I was expecting some upgrades from Red Bull, not RB, V-Carb, what are they called? And nothing seemed to happen. Sonoda seemed to be at the back. Qualifying was terrible. Danny Rick was a little bit further ahead of him, which hasn't been happening either. They were nowhere. So that was my first surprise this weekend. I'd even said to somebody to put some money on Danny Rick scoring some points. I couldn't have been more wrong. Then Aston Martin, they went missing in Monaco, as we know, as we discussed to Andy Stevenson. They've gone missing again this weekend, and for Alonso to be lapped, mate, at his home race, something's not going quite right there. And Lawrence Stroll is who literally wants to put every bit of money he's ever touched in his life or got towards winning the world championship and making his son world champion. I don't know I don't know what's going on. Is Adrian Newey going to go to Aston Martin? Is there going to be a last minute thing? I'm still not sold on him going to Ferrari. I think Aston Martin is still in the mix for Adrian Newey. So maybe their focuses are slightly not on the car. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, really disappointing from Aston Martin. Really disappointing from RB. Again, Kick Sauber. Where were they? They've been nowhere. Williams struggled. And Alpine seemed to be coming up through the field a bit. Both finishing in the points again. Were they 9th and 10th? Let me just...
ninth and 10th. Gasly and then Ocon, yeah.
Just behind Perez. And, where... So they have really stepped forward for me. And of course, who is now their advisor? It's only your best mate, Flavio Briatore.
I saw him on the grid. I was like, oh, God, he's back. Yeah, I mean, we're not massive fans. I think it goes back to Crashgate. I think it still resonates in Formula One. And whenever his name is mentioned, it goes back to that, which, F1 teams, they push the limits and they kind of push grey areas. I get that. But that was out and out cheating. And that isn't cool. So I think the ripple's still being felt about that. Some people say he served his time. He's been away for a long time and now he's back. Look, Alpine, Renault must feel that he's got value to add with experience and what he's going to bring to the table. Perhaps he's going to buy a stake, or maybe he has bought a stake. I don't know, because he's got the funds to do it. Let's see how that develops. But Alpine's becoming a very crowded space now. You've got Briatore there, you've got Ryan Reynolds, you've got McElhenney, you've got the Renault guys, you've got other investors. Like, I don't know, it's like a horse racing syndicate that's happening at the moment. Like, it's very...
You've just reminded me. I was watching Welcome to Wrexham the other day, and Ryan Reynolds, for his mate's birthday, they did a song with the guys who did La La Land, and it was called how to pronounce McElhenney.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. And you've just reminded me because you said McElhenney.
I even watched the song and I forgot.
That's brilliant. Anyway, we digress. Yeah, Alpine is all over the shop at the moment, and it needs somebody to bring them together. And one thing Flavio does is he does seem to bring people together for good and bad and ugly. And so it'll be interesting to see whether they do really push on and really start being consistent point scorers now. Perez had a 3-place grid penalty, but he only qualified, I've not got it in front of me, but 8th or 9th anyway, so dropped back in, pushed Alonso into top 10. I think it was 8th, wasn't it? Dropped to 11th. He's just, what's going on? Since he signed that contract, it's like, it doesn't matter anymore. Or is it that Red Bull really, he's showing the true colours of Red Bull, and Verstappen is absolutely driving the socks off that car? Is that the real gulf between those two drivers and where Red Bull should naturally sit if it wasn't for Verstappen? I think that's the case. We obviously saw Piastri start 10th and finish 7th. He messed his qualifying up, really. He used an extra set of soft tyres in Q1 on Saturday, which meant he could only do one run for his quali lap, and he sent it out onto the gravel trap at turn 10, I think it was. So he sort of just messed up his weekend, really, in quali, and never recovered. I think 7th was probably the best he sat, but there were times where he was pumping in laps with Lando when they stayed out for their longer strategy. They both did a longer strategy on that first set of tyres, and I thought, here we go. So I think 10th to 7th for Piastri is actually a good result. It was all down to qualifying, and it shows you how important qualifying is.
It is. I mean, certain tracks depend on qualifying massively. Monaco is a prime example, but qualifying now is becoming more and more important, because if you can get those great starts, that's half the battle. It's half sown as half grown, as Charlie Arden would say in Clarkson's Farm. We're seeing more of this now. I think there is more emphasis on qualifying, perhaps because people thought, well, we can make up in the race. But now you've got these knockout stages, in qualifying. I don't know. There's lots of surprises that can happen as well. Another surprise, and I'm going to zoom in for this because this is some news.
Go on.
Whoa! Silverstone. Now, unfortunately, I can't make it to Silverstone because I'm away. But you're going to Silverstone. You're going to check it out as a fan, and you're going to take some vids for us. The thing about Silverstone, bit of controversy, the prices. Now, it seems like the whole package for the weekend it's pretty much doubled, and they are struggling to sell out. So there is still capacity for tickets. So, you know, if you want to go to Silverstone, we've both been many times, go and get a ticket, go and check it out. What is the reason for that, Darren? Is it a pricing issue? Is it a cost of living issue? What is going on?
Well, first of all, when it comes to cost of living issue, and me with 3 kids, 2 of them massively into motorsport, it's expensive for me to take my 2 boys to Silverstone. And so I've just bought some general admission tickets for us because I just can't warrant the grandstand prices unless it's just me, you know, and it's just one of me. So three tickets is expensive, £349 just to get in the door to sit on a piece of grass is a lot of money. I think cost of living is a part of this, and the general motor racing fan can watch amazing coverage on the television. Whether it's watching Sky Sports or Channel 4 or whatever medium you're watching it on, the coverage is so brilliant. I think that when there is a squeeze, and especially with the election coming so close to Silverstone as well. In fact, it's on the Thursday is our general election in the UK. I think people are a little bit apprehensive about where their money's got to go for the next few months and next year or so on. So Silverstone, I think you need to look at your pricing structure a bit. It's just so expensive. Now, Joe, you said to me not that long ago on a podcast that you felt Hungary was one of the best priced races in Europe to go to. And I've not looked at the pricing, but funnily enough, a friend of mine I was with yesterday at a football tournament with my son, he's Hungarian, and he's taken my advice, and he's off to the Hungarian Grand Prix. So, yeah. So
fantastic.
go back,
it is. It is. I think it works out. I think it works out to about 240 euros in Hungary for the weekend. And the weather is usually incredible, although it has rained once or twice. But when I was there, it was absolutely scorching. Which was phenomenal. And Budapest is a great city, and I've talked about this before, but yeah, it's stonking. But I have a new tip for the budget F1 fan, and I actually mentioned this on the last podcast. Monaco. Can you believe Monaco is, I think, the cheapest Formula One event to go to? Now, sounds crazy. We were on super yachts and we were drinking rosé and champagne and all the jazz with all the celebs. But there are places in Monaco, because it's a city, it's a country there, where you can get up onto hills above La Rascasse. There's a nice hill there. You can sit. You can see Rascasse. You can see. I forget all the names. Swimming pool, and around there and back to the start finish. You could get a great view, and you get a great view of the harbour and the whole scene for free. You can go and sit there, take a picnic. You can go to Nice, costs 100, 200 quid from London, and get the train from Nice, as we did, Nice Saint Augustin from the airport all the way to Monte Carlo, and it's about £6 each way. So 12 quid on the train, take a picnic, get some drinks in, 50 quid, and a flight. Well, you know, there we go. You can have a great F1 weekend. And because Monaco is a street circuit, they open the streets after the race. So you can go and walk around the track, as we failed to do because we were being dragged to so many parties. Yeah, I know you did try. Next time. Yeah, so Monaco is the big tip, but Hungary for ticket prices, it's great. You can take the train out there, or you can drive. There's also shuttle buses from Budapest that will take you out there. The train is easy, and you can walk from the track to the train station. And yeah, make sure you go over to the food section. They do amazing Hungarian goulash and breads, and they have simulators, the full fan villages. So there we go. That's Hungary. But Silverstone, yeah, look, I think that's not inflation. You know, doubling the price, That's not inflation. 5%, 6%. No, this is something else. Thursday, is that still free to go on Thursday?
So this year, it's the first time they're charging another £100 to go on Thursday, but
Whoa.
it does give you inner track access on the Thursday and a pit lane walk that you have to book. But it is another £100 on top. And quite frankly, my boys were desperate to walk down the pit lane. Joe, you and I have done it many times, and I've done it on FaceTime with my dad, so he gets his own Martin Brundle pit walk. But mate, I can't warrant the expense when there's so much else going out every week, and I'm sure so many Formula One fans are exactly the same as that. So Thursday for me, it's the new Friday. I do agree with that. You know, there's so much to do at the track on the Thursday that it's a great joy to be there. Even though there's no track action, you can get to see more. But another £100 is a lot of money for a lot of people.
Per person as well.
Yes, yes, and of course there's three of us, three of me and my two boys. So yeah, I just can't warrant that expense, Joe. And I wish I could. And to see nothing other than to walk around and sample the atmosphere. It's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of money. And talking of a lot of money, someone who's keeping his eye on deals and offers is Carlos Sainz. Now, he did hint that there would be a decision very, very soon on his future. He's also commented on McLaren being super fast. I can't see him going to McLaren, to be honest. They've got such a great roster, these two drivers. But I think we've talked about it before, Mercedes possibly, Aston Martin possibly. I mean, there's been hints at Williams, but I think if he knows if he goes to Williams, I mean, he's not coming back from that.
Well, I'd love to see him take over Lewis's role in Mercedes. At the same time, I'd love to see Antonelli in the car. So I think Antonelli is the answer there. I'd love to see him take over Stroll's position in Aston Martin, but I think Stroll is in that car until he decides he wants to stop doing it. I think we're going to see Sainz in the Williams, and I think we're actually going to see a better Williams team over the next 3 years. I think we're going to start to see them move up the grid a bit more. I think James Vowles, who came from Mercedes, is a brilliant team manager. I'm not so sure he likes the media stuff quite so much as some of the other team owners and team managers. But I think Williams are definitely going to move forward. You know, when they were still part of the Williams family with Claire Williams running it, I just think they ran out of money. They just couldn't compete with the likes of Lawrence Stroll and the big guns of Mercedes and Red Bull. I think we're going to see Doralton money start to show. And if they get Sainz in that car, to have Albon and Sainz, they are two top drivers. I genuinely think he would push that team forward more than anybody else. I might be completely wrong, but that's my instinct of what's going to happen.
Maybe Andretti will just buy Williams and be done with it.
Well,
could happen.
Yeah, I think there's stuff on the table for Alpine as well, because I think Renault are getting fed up with it and talking about actually having a different engine supplier at Alpine. What does that say for who's going to buy like Alpine sports cars? I don't get it at all. There's not many of them made. There's not many of them sold. But Renault just don't seem to be interested in pushing that road car brand like Mercedes and the others of the like. And Ferrari. That's why Formula One has to sell road cars.
I must concede that the Alpine is quite a pretty car. I've seen it. It's quite a nice car, actually. And a friend of mine, I think you know Greg. Greg, we used to work with. French guy. Don't worry. So he knows the guys, obviously, being French. And I don't know if I should say this on the live podcast, but he sometimes gets to drive the Alpine. And he says it's a fantastic car.
Okay.
Absolutely loves it. So, look, I really enjoyed watching the race. It was nice to see some sunshine. And finally, we got some sunshine in the UK. So we're going to make the most of that. And hopefully that will stay for Silverstone, which is the first week of July. But before Silverstone, we have the Austrian Grand Prix. That is next week. We'll be doing our review after the race. That's going to be an interesting one. Some different weather, perhaps. Let's see who's going to be dominant there. Of course, it's all Red Bull focused there. It's the Red Bull Ring. It's Is that going to help Max? Is it going to help Sergio Perez to give him a bit of a boost? We'll see. But I think McLaren certainly are on a real tear at the moment. So let's see how they go. I've got a shout out to my friend Julian Lander, who's in Lisbon at the moment with his friends and colleagues, having a great time. And I told him to watch the podcast. So hopefully he's there right at the moment watching us. So thanks, Jules, for following Racehouse. I'm also got the T-shirt on. Check this out. You can still go to racehouse.cc, check out some merch, and also I want to blow a big kiss to the RC España. So yeah, we'll talk about that later. Okay, but cool. Well, that's it from us at the moment, and we will be back. I said Austrian Grand Prix. So from now, from me, Jolie, it's goodbye.
Me, Darren Reeves, it's goodbye.
That's a new one. That's a new one. Okay. Anyway, so it's goodbye from me, Jolie.
And it's goodbye from me, Darren Reeves. Take care.
Take care.